Good morning. It's Marty the JavaScript party. No Rhett here today because it is Tuesday at 8:17. So my son will be dropping off his dogs in probably the next 30 minutes or so, and it will be all hell will break loose. So we are working on my space and time project. It's ThreeJS and Angular together, and we're a bit stalled out at the moment. And the reason we're stalled out is because I discovered a thing called detached nodes, and a lot of the foundational things in Angular don't um, work very well with detached nodes. So what happens, or a lot of foundational things in Angular create a lot of detached nodes. You can tell if you have detached nodes by going into your tools and going hitting memory and then clicking this radio button for detached elements. And as you see, we don't have any. Um, but I did find, like, before, what was happening is I had a map menu, which was sort of hidden here, and you would immediately have like 7 detached uh, elements. So here they're called detached nodes. Here they're called detached elements. Um, so so I got rid of Angular, the matte menu, and that went away. But as I was navigating through the application, I was getting detached nodes. So I basically assumed it was probably because of the router outlet component. As the router outlet component gets disposes of different views, apparently for some reason the browser itself cannot is not aware that it was disposed of and then just keeps it around. And so basically now I've got to figure out how to redo my application but without the router component. I suspect these problems will go away at some point in Angular. So, today is September 23rd, 2025. I would be shocked if, like, in 2027, if we still have this issue. But for me, that's like 2 years from now. So I'm going to sort of work around not using um, router outlet to sort of control the UI. Um, I work on dozens of projects, and this is the only project that I think it matters for. Every other project that I'm working on, I don't think it's a big deal. But for this one, because I do think that it sort of falls under some conditions in which, like, excess of memory usage could become a real problem, and just refreshing may not be an option. You can always fix those issues by literally just refreshing the page. Um, so anyway, so what I've started to do is these were inside of a router outlet. And I basically have 3 layouts right now. I have this custom layout, which is basically right now is like a grid layout. And then I have this tabular layout, which is like a table with some buttons on the side. And then there's another layout called um, like edit layout, update layout. And so that is the third layout, which I am not doing here. So right now, these two were kind of used to working in absolute isolation of each other. So so there's some refactoring that needs to be done in there. But what I want to do is I want to change this to be like hidden. Either the custom layout or the tabular layout is hidden, based on whether it is what on the on whatever the route is. Angular provides a lot of really good, several very good services for um, keeping track of the route, and um, some very good um, services. It provides some components. It provides directives. Provides lots and lots of different things for route maintenance and manipulation. So basically, what I want to do is I think the approach I want to take is I don't. So it seems to me like naturally you would think getting rid of a view is going to be lighter on the application than getting a what do I try to say? Getting rid of a view is going to be easier on the application than hiding the view. But that's not true, I don't think. And the reason it's not true is because um, the view still exists even after you've gotten rid of it um, when you use Angular, um, because uh, the uh, the browser still has a reference to it. Um, so actually hiding so that you never have more than one is probably a better approach um, than not hiding. So I want to add a class. So right now what happens is if you add a viz, uh, basically you could see the custom layout and the tabular layout. Um, the, right now, since we don't have a anything in the route, I would rather use custom. I would rather show the. I only want to show the custom. I don't want to show that uh, the tabular. And then when I'm here, I only want to show tabular, and I don't want to show custom. So that's the first mission. Um, Once we've gotten that mission done, where one hides when the other is displayed, and the other hides when based on this, then we have to figure out, okay, how do I get it to not use the custom layout? Well, then we have other issues, and this is probably going to take a little while to figure out. But one thing that I learned in previous situations is that CSS is really, really good for creating rules to show and hide things based on classes in a parent div. So this is a parent or a parent element. So this is a parent element up here. So I'm just going to give it an ID equals parent. And then I'm going to give it a class. I believe we do like this, ng class, and I'm going to just do it based on I believe what we do is we go like this, and then we say that we want like a specific class in the parent based on a value. And I believe the value, I mean, we can name it the value whatever we want, but I'm just going to say view is the value. And I'm going to say that, is that how you do it? No, you say what the class is that you want. So the class I want is tabular. And I want to see it whenever the view no. So when I'm just going to say true for now. So let's just kind of do this a piece at a time. Now, I believe it's complaining right now because it doesn't know what ng class is. And the reason it doesn't know what ng class is because this is a standalone project. I don't have modules, and I need to include the common module whenever I do this. If I want to use one of these sort of common directives. I believe that's a directive. But I believe ng class is a directive, and I basically want to set it based on things. So right now, it should always make it tabular. So next step is to import the common module. And basically, right now, we are not importing anything. So probably the easiest way to do it is just type in common module. Put a comma there, and then I think we can, that's not right. I believe it's part of core, so let's try that. Element OP, so it's not complaining about that. Oh, yeah, it is. Commons. Is it Commons? I can't. Is it Oh, so here we go. Let's see what kind of import from Angular common. Okay, so apparently there's a library, a module. I don't know what you'd call that. I guess. Okay, so it was called common module. I was just trying to bring it in from the wrong place, and that's how you learn. Now I could have just gone to ChatGPT and been like, okay, how do I do common module? But I'm trying. I find it to be mentally healthy to sort of just from time to time, just or try your best you can just from your memory. So let's see what happens when I hit save here. Okay, so now we're happy, and if we hit inspector, we should be able to find our app layout menu, and inside of it, it should have a div, and that div should have no, that's a button. Oop, wrong one. App menu div, and as you can see, it has a class of tabular, but I only want it to be tabulars if the route is tabular. So the next step is to create a variable that's going to have our view in it. So we're going to say variable view. Now, this gets tricky because it's really easy to end up creating a weird little expression executed or expression change before it could be shown bug here. And so you really want your view to be, I don't know exactly the best way to avoid that. Let me see if there's anything in ChatGPT about that. So in Angular, I've noticed that if I have a component attribute that is a primitive no, what prim? Primitive. Yeah, that's right. Is a primitive that that it is the starting point to eventually ending up with the expression changed console warning /error. Yeah, you've run into one of those Angular quirks around primitive inputs and change detection. This is why when you pass a primitive value, string, number, boolean into a component, the input at that expression time will change if the value is coming from expression or something that changes often, e.g. that the template is bound conditionals. Angular sees that the input changes between the checks, one check to the next, which after years and years of playing with this is exactly what I believe. Even if it evaluates to the same value. Now, I've never seen that. I've never seen it say expression changed from 1 to 1, but I have seen you'll see the expression changed after it's been checked error. Warning thinks the input changed after it already checked, which I don't understand why that's even a thing. Like, who effing cares? If the counter changes during the CD Angular test, the values changed, it's too late. Why the objects behave differently? Okay, so instead of that, Angular tracks the reference, not the content. Unless you actually assign a new reference, To avoid this, don't bind expressions to anything during CD. Instead, assign the value to a class property first. Use life cycle hooks. Don't mutate bound primitives. Yeah, so this is usually what I've found to be the actual stricter control. And I don't even know if this would help. I think this is just something that people push, and I don't understand why people push that. I know some people that I truly respect that push this, but I don't get it, and they never really gave me. Okay, so it's not the okay, so necessarily. But even calculated, but even calculated attributes. So this is kind of like, I know I'm kind of off on a tangent here, but like to me, this is something that's just been um, um, this just been bugging me for a long time. I think I'm finally in a position to really understand how to update this. I cannot even begin to tell you how many hours, mostly build, but how many hours I've spent trying to figure out how to avoid this. Yeah, see, like this kind of thing is active will change based on a volatile expression. Um, okay, so all stable. Okay, okay, so like the best way to deal with this is to bind to objects, not primitives. So there's some catches to this. So this binding to an object instead of so the object change doesn't change, but the problem is that it doesn't always notice that that their object can avoid many, but they cause unnecessary renders if you're not careful. For example, yeah. So you definitely don't want to do this, right? Because um, so bind object strategy only works if you're reusing the same object reference. The real best practice: pre-calculate values into a stable component property instead of doing the math or function calls unlined. Won't default the object for error use. Okay, so what did we do? See, we did learn a new thing in the menu. I think it was menu, app menu. Was it in here? Let's see. Okay. Would it make sense to update? Okay, so the biggest problem seen with binding to an object is that sometimes Angular doesn't recognize that the value changed. Yes, you've nailed the other edge of the sword. When you bind the Angular, only checks if the reference, if you mutate the property, Angular does not see it as a change. See, so actually changing the whole object every time is worse than the primitive, and you probably still get the error. is useful part of a strategy to avoid these issues. It's very useful. Break it down. Okay, so it's not going to fix the issue. I was kind of hoping that running this function would. And see, like, it kind of seems like signals might be the approach, because with signals, then Angular seems to manage that on its side. An example of how signals with it seems like signals alone could solve this problem, right? So the problem, just to sum up, is that I'm adding this code, wrong one, in here, and I'm saying, hey, if I want to create a variable that instead of this being hard coded to true, a variable that says like view, and then yeah, I wonder if that would work. If like maybe, okay, so if I have my view and then this calls a function, then I think that Angular would manage calling that to check to see thing. So I could create, maybe I can create a function that view. So by default, my view is custom. I want it to be custom. I want that to be the default view. But let's say we hit reload, then I'm afraid that what's going to happen is I'm going to get that error if if I have this and I hit reload and it just automatically is an Angular. It'll be like I never got a chance to draw it as custom because it was tabular. So what I want to do is maybe I'll create a function that returns the view, and then maybe and then maybe Angular on its side will just slide it in where it likes it, and I won't see that error because it will call the function draw, then call the function again the next time it drew. So get view, get view layout. I'm just going to have it do a string now. I do want to strongly type that, but view. And then so I will have this get here, and then I'll have a different set, and they'll work independently. Now I know I've had like massive issues with this sort of thing in PRs. Yeah. But if the view can change aserially during a lifecycle hook. Cached property. God. Sure, show me the signals. God dang it. Signal, and then... See, I guess this is what we're going to want to do. It just makes it, I guess it just makes it easier for Angular to sort of manage the flow of this. And see over here, we just say, hey, view layout, which is a computed of this, and we set the view. And I guess we'll set the view, we'll call this function whenever we'll call this function whenever the route changes. Now the downside to this is that, you know, like Angular, you know, is, you know, obviously their greatest strength is also their most biggest vulnerability, and that's that it stays up with the times. And, you know, while signals is the flavor of the month at this moment, a better solution will be discovered in the future, and Angular will move off of signals. And then I'll likely have to refactor at that point, but, you know, I guess that's just the reality. All right, so we are using signal and computed. I'm pretty sure those are both from core. Yep, core and core. Just make sure it did it the way I want it. Signal, computed. Yeah, good job, IDE. All right, so then on this side, the signal will, the initial signal will always be custom, even if the route starts off as a tabular. The signal will always be custom, and I kind of like the way that worked up there. I don't know if I'm going to like it. I don't know what this does actually. Now that I think about it, class layout equals layout view class dot layout. I guess it's just going to add a layout. I kind of like that instead of ng class. But then we don't need the common module anymore if we're going to do it that way. So basically our layout at this point, inspect, ID is parent, the class is layout. I don't think that doesn't feel right. Is that right? Did I call it layout? No, it's supposed to be signal. Maybe that's supposed to be view in there instead of layout. Oh, view layout. Oh, okay. Okay. Change my mind. I want to go back to my ng class and see what happens. Undo, Control Z, Control Z, Control Z, Control Z. And this is called view, right? View is what we do it off of. Is that right? Did I do that right? There's just so many things going. Yeah, view layout. See, this is the signal that we're going to do, but this is computed off of that view. So view layout, I believe, is the one we want to use. So basically, oh, okay. ng class. Can I do this? Equals. Okay, so, all right. Class layout. What is class.layout? So I think it said, okay, so custom. Okay. Okay, so I would like so it to have the class of custom if view layout returns custom. Oh, okay. Okay, but then tabular. But if the function returns tabular, I want the class to be tabular. Oh, okay, so we're back to ng class. All right. I'll do this. This is pretty cool. View layout class. But that is the wrong name. Did it do it that way? Did it make it a computed? Yeah. That is interesting though. It's computed and it returns the layout. It seems like, can it just return the layout? It doesn't seem like it should need that. I think that's just that. So right now it should be custom, I think. Yeah, it's custom. And then if we were to make it tabular, so it's going to make it whatever this signal is. And I think view is a good name. We probably should rethink that for a second, but I think it's a good name. Yep, see now it's tabular. So then, I think what we do at this point is we can either work on actually hiding and showing the classes based on that value, or we can work on setting the value based on the route. And we have 4 minutes, so let's go with hiding and showing based on that. So basically in here in our SCSS, we'll create a tabular. No, we'll create a oh, okay, so how do we want to do this? Okay, so in here, inside of the parent, we have an ID of parent, we have a class, and the class will either be tabular or custom right now, the way we've done this. So basically what we want to do is say that, okay, so what we want to do is we want to create a, gosh, why did I do it that way? I guess what we want to do, the best way to do this would be to make a class for parent. That's what I called it, right? Yeah, so for parent, and then I believe what we can do is now we can go like this, and we can add an and then tabular. And then we can say, and there's probably going to be a much better way to do that. For this guy right here, display none. And then, and we'll definitely make this better, but for our other one, which I believe is custom, I think it's tabular layout is how I did that. Block, or I think it's absolute is what. And then basically the exact same thing, but for custom. And there's definitely a better way to do this. I'm just trying to get it working. Make this absolute. And this none. I think that will work. I think what that'll do is it'll make it hide or show the right one based on. So we're going to add a viz so that we can actually see. Okay, so yeah, so our tabular showed and our other one was hidden. And so now what we want to do, yeah, and I think that's, well, oops. Let's try this now. Custom. Yeah, and I think that is the custom layout. So we can't see them because because I don't know, we're not rendering right at this moment, but we are showing and hiding properly based on that. So the next thing will be tomorrow will be to update the view signal anytime the router is different. It is based on whatever the router is. So that is 8:56. So I gotta get to work in 4 minutes. Happy coding, everybody. Bye.